What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Tim and Shipe Show. This episode of our podcast is brought to you by the Loft at Pex Hall. If you're looking for a venue, whatever it may be, to have a party, to have an event, check out the Loft at Pex Hall in Circleville, Ohio. It's downtown. It's overlooking everything. It's a historic building. I don't know if it's officially historic, but it was built in 1860. It's been renovated. It's been renewed, refreshed, whatever you want to call it. It is just a beautiful location. Right around 4,000 square feet, and it's just an absolute treasure in Circleville, Ohio. So check it out. Go to their Facebook page if you want to book it, the Loft at Pex Hall. Get a hold of Curtis, get a hold of his staff, whoever it may be. But check them out and get your next venue, your next event booked as soon as possible, because this place is going to book up quick. It is absolutely gorgeous. Check it out, the Loft at Pex Hall on Facebook. Give them a like, follow, and comment as well, because they are just the best people in the world, and we appreciate their sponsorship so much. The Loft at Pex Hall on Facebook. Check them out and book your next venue as soon as possible. This episode of the podcast is also brought to you by Bella Freight. Bella Freight is a company who is going to move your stuff. I don't know. They're a company who takes the large loads, the heavy loads that you see. They hook it up to their trailer. They hook it up to their big old trucks, and they take it all over the country. Check out Bella Freight. You can search them on, just give them a Google search, go to their website, or they have a Facebook page as well. Check out Bella Freight. If you have a large load, or if you have a commercial load that needs moved, check out Bella Freight and book your next transportation, your next freight transportation as soon as possible. Bella Freight on Facebook, the Pex Hall, the Loft at Pex Hall on Facebook. Check them both out and give our sponsors a little love. And with that, let's get to the show.
Could be up to the offensive line. No, Prince's going to throw for it. Got to get it off. They go for the ball game. Touchdown! Touchdown! Michael Jacobs! Holy Buckeye! Tebow straight ahead into the end zone, and the Gators have put this one on ice.
Hello, and welcome to the Tim and Shipe Show. This is a college football podcast. We're part of the Press Play Podcast Network, and we're going to be talking about college football, our reactions from last week's games, Florida Gators, the Ohio State Buckeyes, and everything in between. Thank you so much for being a part of our show today. Tim Jones, how you doing?
Hey, man, I'm doing great. It's another good week. More really good games to watch this weekend. I'm excited. I can't wait.
Yes, let's dive into it. Florida got exposed, Tim. They got exposed. Their offensive line got exposed. Their defensive line got exposed. How do you recover? And are they as good as we thought they were?
You're stealing my show notes, Shipe. You're stealing my show notes. That's exactly the issue. I'm looking at Florida against South Carolina. First of all, their offense still played great. Kyle Trask, 4 touchdowns. His 1 interception was a freak play by the defender. He just, he was trying to get looked like a little screen type play, and I think he was trying to throw it away, to be honest. And that defender, one-handed diving interception. Impressive, very, very athletic, impressive play. And that's fine. We'll take that. He also had a careless fumble when he tried to make a run play and try to make something happen, and he just dropped the ball. Outside of that, he played well. His QBR is 91.5. Like, he's still playing very, very well. This game, at first, it looked like Pitts again was going to be that guy, that tight end who just dominated. And in the first half, he played really well. In the second half, South Carolina did a good job of kind of slowing him down. They did some double coverage and different things like that to take the ball away from him. Unfortunately for South Carolina, what that meant is Tony kind of took over, and he played amazing. He had one specific play where he basically, there were 5 guys trying to tackle him, and one guy hit him. He just kept going and just outran all of them to the end zone for a long touchdown. So again, the passing game was great. The rushing game was good. They didn't need it as much this game as they have last year they did. Mm-hmm. But Pierce again averaging over 5.5 per carry. So as their bulldozer, that's pretty impressive numbers. So overall, some good things for sure. Some things we've got to work on. Our offensive line has to be a little bit better. They've got to give Trask a little more time. They've got to give a little bigger of a hole for that rushing game to get through. And most importantly, our defense in general has to be better, but our defensive line has got to get to the quarterback. We can get away with that against a South Carolina team that doesn't have a lot of offensive talent. We cannot get away with that this coming week against Texas A&M. That's not good enough. Like, we've got to sack the quarterback. We've got to pressure them better. We can't give them all day in the pocket. And then, once we give them all day in the pocket, we can't give them these long receptions either. Our quarterbacks have to be better. Our safeties have to be better. Their coverage has to change. I don't know what Grantham has in mind. I'm sure he has. He's really, really good at making adjustments. And I do think they're going to get better every game this year, but it's got to be now. Like, this is the time. Texas A&M, obviously they got blown out by Alabama, but they have a good team. Yeah. So they have a lot of talent on that roster. Their offensive defensive lines are very, very good. Alabama was just that much better. They're a level above. And if Florida's going to make the next step this year, it starts on Saturday against Texas A&M.
Do they have to blow them out like Alabama did?
They're going to have to score. Absolutely. Texas A&M will score on Florida. I can say that right now. There's no question. Their quarterback is too good. Like, he's a solid player. Like, he hasn't had a great career, but you can see he's progressed. He's gotten better every single year. And this is an opportunity for him to get a big signature win in the SEC, and get some scouts looking his way to get drafted. Like, he's trying to make a name for himself in the NFL at this point, I think, too. More so, I think he kind of is looking at his season as, I'm not going anywhere with this team, but I can go somewhere in the NFL if I can make a name for myself by beating teams like Florida.
Is Pitts a physical wide receiver? If you jam him at the line, would he be able
What's
to
going
recover?
on, everybody, and welcome to the Tim and
Or is
Shipe
that-
Show.
like, I'm
This
just
episode
thinking,
of our
like, okay,
podcast is
Ohio
brought
State
to you
plays
by
Florida,
the
they
Loft
have to
at
stop
Pex Hall.
basically
If
two
you're looking for a
players.
venue, whatever it may be,
And so
to
if you can
have a
jam
party,
Pitts at the line
to have an
and
event,
put,
check out the Loft at Pex Hall
your
in
best
Circleville,
coverage
Ohio.
guy
It's
on-
downtown. It's
what's
overlooking
his name?
everything.
Little guy.
It's a historic building.
Tony?
I don't know if it's
Yeah,
officially
put
historic,
your
but it was
best
built
defender
in
on Tony.
1860.
Is that
It's
could you
been
slow down
renovated.
their
It's been
passing attack?
renewed, refreshed, whatever
Yes
you
and
want to
no.
call it. It is just a beautiful location.
He isn't just a big physical wide receiver.
Right
He
around
is,
4,000 square
and
feet.
more and more
it's
as
just
he worked on that a lot in this
an
offseason.
absolute
He is
treasure in
becoming
Circleville,
more
Ohio.
of
So
a
check
typical
it out.
tight end.
Go
He just
to their
has the
Facebook
physical
page
abilities
if
to
you
play
wanna
wide
book it.
receiver.
The Loft
So it
at
makes
Pex
him
Hall.
very
Get a hold
difficult
of Curtis,
to
get a hold of
cover.
his staff.
So
whatever
he
it may be.
reminds me
But
kind
check
of like
him
a
out
smaller Travis
and
Kelce,
get
but
your
like
next
a little bit
venue,
faster.
your next event.
So that's
booked
the
as
kind
soon
of
as
play
possible,
player he
because
is.
this place
He
is gonna book
doesn't
up
love to
quick.
block
It's
because he
absolutely
wants to
gorgeous.
catch the ball.
Check it out, the Loft
So,
at Pex Hall
but he's
on
becoming
Facebook.
more and more
Give
of
them
that
a like,
typical
follow,
tight
and
end as far as his
comment
abilities
well,
and
because
practicing and focusing on those
they
things.
are just
So I
the
think
best
he's more
people
than
in the
that. But
world,
more
and we
important than that,
appreciate
as far
their
as
sponsorship
only having
so
to
much. The Loft at
to
Pex Hall on Facebook.
guard against two
Check them
players.
out.
I don't think that's
and,
true.
Book your
I
next
mean, to be fair to
venue
this team,
as soon as
they lost
possible.
4 wide receivers to the NFL last
This
year.
episode of the podcast
They have
is
4
also
who are
brought to
playing
you
in
by
the NFL
Bella
right
Freight.
now that were
Bella
on this
Freight
team last
is
year.
a
So
company who
the
is
rest of
going
these wide
to
receivers,
move
I mean,
your
Jacob Copeland is still
stuff.
pretty young, and
I don't
Grimes.
know. They're a company
two guys
who
who've
takes
had
the
experience. The
large
rest of these
loads, the
guys
heavy
have
loads that you
almost
see.
no
They hook it up
experience
to their
playing.
trailer. They hook it
So
up
as
to
the year
their
goes on, they're
big
going
old
to get better.
trucks,
They're
and
going to
they
get more
take it
opportunities.
all
They're
over
going
the
to get more
country.
receptions.
Check
But they
out
are
Bella Freight.
athletic.
You can
They're
search them
fast.
on.
So it's going. This
just
team
give
is
them a
going
Google
to get
search.
better.
Go to
Just
their
like I
website,
would think
or
most
they
the
have a
good teams are
Facebook
going
page as
to.
well. Check out
So
Bella
that's
Freight. If
another.
you have
That
a
is
large
one
load, or if you
advantage I
have
think that
a
the SEC
commercial
has,
load that needs
and more so
moved,
even the
check
ACC
out
with the
Bella
amount of
Freight
games
and book
played,
your next
is they get that experience and they
transportation,
get that
your next freight
extra couple of
transportation
games
as soon
in
as possible.
that the
Bella Freight
Big
on
Ten and the
Facebook,
Pac-12 won't
Pex
have.
Hall, the Loft.
Yeah,
at
right now
Pex
it's kind
Hall
of
on
a
Facebook.
what do you
Check
put
them
more
both out and
emphasis on
give
right
our
now? Where do you
sponsors a
think
little love,
the value comes?
because
Is it
we
from those
love
extra
them
practice
so
reps?
much.
Because Ohio
Let's
State,
do it.
I mean, even though they haven't been allowed, I mean, they've been doing under the rules. I think they had 20 hours of practices that they could put in a week. They did get that extra practice time, and they have had a lot of time to get the cohesion right. They did just start hitting this
thank you
week.
so much
they
to our
put the pads
sponsors.
on, and they
And
started
with
hitting
that,
this week.
let's get to the show.
Boy, it feels like Ohio State is trying their best to avoid injury, because I don't think they're going full go all the time. The media was allowed in on the practices, and what they saw was that they're just kind of pursuing, making that initial contact, and then letting up. Like, they're not really going full go in practices right now. But, yeah, so that's kind of where it's at. I mean, is it more valuable to have these games and risk those injuries, or is it more valuable to be able to put the time into practice?
At this point, I would say it's more valuable to have the gameplay because we already didn't have spring football. The practicing is great, but every player will tell you, that game speed is just different. It's not the same. Not to mention the pressure. Now, granted, it's going to be a little different this year because, like we've talked about, the stadiums won't be full. So it's going to take a little bit of the pressure off. But regardless, I mean, you're playing in the horseshoe, like that's a different atmosphere if you're practicing versus playing an actual game. So it's going to be, especially for the younger players, it's this game experience is invaluable. Plus the added pressure of only having so many weeks to get these games in means like you talked about, Ohio State won't have a break. Once they start playing, it's all the way through the rest of this, their entire season. So that makes the odds are, you would think the chances are more likely that there are going to be some injuries or even just like nagging pains and, not necessarily like full-on injuries, but just these aches and pains are going to be more severe and, harder to recover from, I would think. So it's a combination of factors that I would think having a more spread out schedule and being able to play a couple more games would be an advantage in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, there's a reason why I schedule those cupcakes the first few weeks of the season. You don't really get that with the Big Ten schedule, with the Pac-12 schedule. I mean, even anybody's really, everyone's jumping in both feet right now into their conference play. And unless you're the Big 12 or the ACC, you don't really have that those cakewalks.
Yeah, well, and ironically, the ACC they also allow that +1 game, which I think the Pac-12 is too, but that allowed Clemson to play a cupcake game. Florida State just played a cupcake game and really didn't impress against Jacksonville State. So I think that just shows, again, the ACC already has a weaker schedule. And on top of that, they get this cupcake game. It's really setting up either Notre Dame, Clemson, or Miami to have a pretty much – it's those three. So other than that, it's a walk-in through the schedule to get to that playoff.
Speaking of the playoffs, let's talk about Ohio State, the team that's – I don't want to say guaranteed a playoff spot because Penn State's going to be that tough game. But Ohio State and their schedule does leave a lot to be desired as far as their schedule. I was just talking a lot of junk about the ACC and the Big 12 schedule. Ohio State's schedule is kind of set up the same way, except Nebraska could be tough. They're motivated this year. They're thinking Nebraska against the world. And so they would love nothing more than to come into the shoe and beat Ohio State week 1. I don't think it's going to happen. This team is uber focused ever since the playoff loss last year, getting their chance to come back. They are more focused than any team in college football right now, I think. But that's just because that's the team that I cover the most. But they made some moves this week. The Ohio State linebacking core is probably – I think they're ranked 3rd. The linebackers are ranked 3rd in all of college football right now. 3 seniors. We've never – in all of my time, I think maybe we had Bobby Carpenter, Anthony Schlegel, and A.J. Hawk, all linebackers. That may have been the last time that we had linebackers quite as good as what we have right now. Tuff Borland, who is the 2nd ever 3-time captain, as that middle linebacker. And then they moved Pete Warner out to Will. So he's going to be playing more of the outside coverage. He and Baron Browning were flip-flopped this year. And I just think they see more athletic ability in Baron Browning, where he can cover the flats and do a little bit more on pass coverage. And so, but we have three seniors at linebacker, a lot to get excited about as an Ohio State fan. Right now, Ohio State, what they're up against with these tough protocols is creating depth. We don't know. The biggest questions are going to be who's going to be that number 2 quarterback, because we have 2 really good freshmen and a returning senior quarterback, Gunnar Hoke. But everyone is looking like it's talking like C.J. Stroud, the freshman, is going to be taking more of the second-team snaps. And this is huge because Justin Fields, this is going to be his last year at Ohio State. And so whoever wins this quarterback battle now has a leg up on everyone else to be the next starter at Ohio State, the next guy to take the reins, starting from his sophomore season on. And as we've seen at Ohio State, quarterbacks don't stick around long. So we have to get these guys developed. We have to create depth, because if Justin Fields goes down because of COVID or whatever else, we have to be ready. We have to have the depth that we need. Bring in Trey Sermon, running back. That room got a lot deeper, and our wide receivers are deep. So my biggest fear, though, is the offensive line. A lot of freshmen and sophomores after our starting 5, and our quarterback. So we just have to create that depth. We have to be ready for anything. And my other biggest fear going into this season, so Ohio State, I'm not worried about Ohio State. It came out this week that the coaches aren't even going to – they're not going to be staying with their families during the football season. They're going to be staying in hotels away from their families to try to prevent COVID. So I'm not worried about Ohio State having too much trouble with COVID. What I'm worried about is as we get later in the season, when we play teams like Illinois, like Indiana, if they're 0-4, 0-5 by the time we play them, are they going to be taking it as serious as Ohio State? Because right now, Ohio State, it's not really in Ohio State's hands anymore. But as far as that's concerned, our fate is not in our hands. If Illinois goes down with COVID or Indiana, and we have to, and these games start dropping off, where's that going to leave us? Are we going to have enough quality wins? Are we going to have enough wins at all to be in the college football playoff conversation?
Yeah, I mean, that's really a big question. Obviously, they have a little bit of a leg up on the Pac-12 because the Pac-12 has even a more condensed schedule, but not by much. So that is ultimately the question, and that's true with all conferences. Though we talked about that is we don't know right now what's going to happen the next few weeks. Notre Dame just had a game that had to be postponed.
Yeah.
So it's possible for any school on any day, but that also gives the Big Ten and the Pac-12 less wiggle room for mistakes, and not even mistakes, but for this virus to happen. And if it does, then that definitely puts them at a disadvantage as far as, you have to make every opportunity count, every game count. You can't have a close game. You can't afford to even have a close game against Nebraska. You can't. I don't think you will. I think it might be a close first quarter, but I think Nebraska does not have the depth. They might be motivated, but at least in college football, typically motivation can carry you through a half. But if you have a much, much better team who is doing what they're supposed to do, it shouldn't matter. Once you get into the second half and the depth starts to be a factor, then I expect Ohio State to really just take over and dominate that game. Yeah. But you can't afford to have a Purdue loss, let alone a close game. You can't have a close game against those teams this year. Those are the games that are going to make or break the Pac-12 and the Big Ten, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I'm also a little worried, I'm not worried about the team. It's more about the protocols and the COVID that I'm worried about this season. And where I think the SEC and the ACC have a leg up is the more these teams are going to be playing, the higher the chances that we're going to get COVID. And so Ohio State pushing everything to the back end of the season. It's such a condensed schedule that there's going to be the risk just gets higher and higher. The more the season goes on, the risk of contracting COVID just gets higher and higher and higher. And I mean, if we just get in 4 games, it's a wash. This season is wasted. And that's what has me the most worried. And I just want to see this team play in the playoffs. And I'm worried that they're not going to get that chance because of the virus.
Well, the one advantage I think they do have with that is they're getting to see what other teams are doing and what's working.
Yeah, that's true.
So they can learn from other conferences and other teams that are saying, well, we're doing this and this and this. For example, Andy Reid, first game of the NFL, his mask is fogging up. He looks ridiculous. And last night he's already, in the next week he had it figured out. Like it's a lot of trial and error because this is just the world's just new. It's just different right now. So Ohio State can sit back and say, okay, what is Florida doing? What is Clemson doing? What's working? So we can make sure we're doing those things too. And, Florida's had minimal cases of this virus in their team. So they have done a good job, and the law schools have done a really good job. And there have been sparse cases here and there, but nothing serious, thankfully. So, that's on one advantage, I think, is they can look at other schools and say, what did they do that worked? And what have they done that didn't work, so they can make adjustments.
Yeah, I like that. I've noticed a lot of fans in the SEC. Have you heard anything about those? Because they're not social distance. They're not wearing masks in the stands. It doesn't seem. And so, have there been any COVID cases from that in the SEC from the fans?
I haven't heard, but I don't think they would release it if there were, because they don't want that politicized or really just talked about in general. I know there was a game this past weekend where they actually emptied the stands because the fans weren't social distancing.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, so I can't remember who it was now, but I know there was it wasn't an SEC game, but there was a game in college football this past weekend where the stands were emptied at halftime or before halftime, I believe, because of the fans not doing what they're supposed to do. So I think in general they are doing a decent job and they're trying their best to, to keep people I felt like Florida did a good job this week. They weren't having issues with it. They were spaced out, and the band was specifically marked their spots in the stands, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I think in general, a lot of schools are doing a good job. I think it's a few schools that are having issues, don't want to call anybody out, but Florida State week 1, not good at all. All 12 fans that were there just did not, they were all like huddled together. It was not good.
Yeah, it's a wild world that we live in. And speaking of wild, it seems like Texas is kind of living on the wild side. Thinking about Urban Meyer creeping in a little bit, thoughts about that? Because Texas, Tom Herman not living up to expectations. It seemed like they had struck gold with Tom Herman after his season at Houston, but then he has not lived up to expectations. He goes down to an unranked TCU team. That safety at the end of regulation was kind of funny how they're like, yeah, it's just over. Big deal. You got a safety. This game's over. You still lose. But, yeah, Tom Herman not living up to expectations. Is Texas ready to move on to Urban Meyer? Is Urban Meyer ready to move on to Texas? The rumors are out there, Tim.
Well, I think Texas would love to have Urban Meyer. Let's just get that out there. I think absolutely Texas would be like, let's go right now, today, by Tom. But my question is for Urban Meyer is why? I mean, the reality is your biggest competition in the Pac-12 right now, Oklahoma has a young head coach who has proven to be good. Like, he's a good coach. Like, this, obviously they're having a down year this year. They lost basically all of their running backs. They have a young quarterback. So Oklahoma's down this year, but they're coming back. They're going to be good again next year, I believe. And so outside of that, the Big 12 is kind of a joke. And I think Urban Meyer recognizes that. The only way Urban Meyer would want Texas is if he has a vision where he can change the atmosphere, change the concepts to more of a balanced team and change them into more of a SEC Big 10 type where they have a balanced offense and defense and completely change the culture of the Big 12. And my question again is, does he want to do that? How long does he want to be committed? Because that's not going to be an overnight change.
Right.
I mean, granted, he can recruit. It would be pretty quick.
It would be pretty quick. It would be 2 years max before Urban changes things. But
is Texas what they were before? I think Texas is so arrogant. They're like, yeah, we're one of those schools. We can do whatever we want. But I think the USC thought the same thing. And where have they been in the last 10 years? Yeah. So I don't know that Texas right now is one of those premier programs. The players are recruiting. They don't remember when Texas was good. They don't remember a Texas team that won with Mac Brown. So I think it's going to take some – I mean, the only reason – I should say the biggest reason people would go to Texas right now is because of Urban Meyer's name and his brand, not because
Star
of Texas'
power.
brand. That's the difference.
Yeah.
So that's why I think if anything, Urban Meyer is still looking – we talked about this before in our show.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at Notre Dame job. He's waiting for Notre Dame to slip up, and they're like, all right, we're done. We've given you too many years of one losses or getting the playoff and getting blown out. Let's see if Urban Meyer's ready to step in because he could step in today, and Notre Dame is a top 4 team.
Yeah, I don't want Urban Meyer to coach anywhere, but I don't think that he's going to be sitting behind a desk on Big Noon Saturdays for much longer. If Urban Meyer goes to coach somewhere, Ohio State loses their recruiting because he's taking Pantoni with him. They lose their strength trainer, Marotti, which is the best in the country. And Ohio State, those two are a big part of why Ohio State's successful right now because they're able to recruit and they're able to develop. And so if they lose those two guys, I worry about – I don't know if I worry. I think there are good guys out there, but those two are on the next level. Those two are what makes Ohio State tick right now. And we have to – I don't know what we have to do. We have to try to hang on to those guys, offer them the world to keep them on because if Urban Meyer goes and coaches anywhere, I worry that we're going to lose those two. So my fingers are crossed that Urban Meyer doesn't take any job and he just is satisfied being the Lee Corso behind a desk for the rest of his career and making a career out of that.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying that, of course, your team would recover, but you don't want to have to recover from those kind of losses.
No.
But I agree. I think Urban Meyer is going to get that itch. It's in his blood. I mean, it might be a little bit longer than you think, but he's going to want to get back in. I mean, that's what you've seen pretty consistently, I think, with these guys who they do become analysts or whatever, and they're commentators, and like they go out and they're still watching the game, they're still immersed in it, and before you know it, they're like, oh man, I'm ready. I want to get back in this. I can still do this. So I just don't see him staying out too much longer. I think he's ready to be ready to get back in the next couple of years. Yeah,
Urban Meyer needs a shtick, some kind of put a mascot helmet on, do something to make yourself more famous as an announcer than a coach. Like like the lead court. Like I want him to be Lee Corso, to where he just sits behind a desk and I can watch him talk college football, because that's what, if he's not coaching, I love watching him break down plays and talk about different formations and things as a commentator. Like I think he does a great job at it. So I really want him to stick with that. It's what he needs to do, Urban. You need to do that.
Yeah, I feel like you're a little bit selfish motives here with your
100%. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%.
But I don't know. I'd be curious too what his family, what their opinion is on it right now, because I'm sure that's a big impact in this too. Does his family support him going in 100% again? Because Urban's not going to go in halfway. Like he's going to all the way in. So I know this gives him a chance to spend time with his family. So it'll be interesting to see what he decides to do moving forward. Yeah,
they're basically all grown though. All his kids are pretty well grown up at this point. Yeah. So I think but who knows? I don't know. I think it, like you said, he does go all in, and it causes him a lot of stress when he does go back into coaching. So maybe he's gone. Yeah. And the more and more I try to talk myself into him staying, the more and more I realize dude's not going to be behind on Big Noon Saturday for much longer.
Yeah, but I noticed you haven't answered your own question. Is he going to Texas?
I don't know. If it were me and I had anywhere to move in the country, it would be Texas besides Ohio. If I'm leaving Ohio, I think Texas would be the next best place. I went there a couple of years ago, and everyone there is really, really nice. And I really like the state of Texas. So if I was going, I don't know. They could offer him a lot of money. I don't know if that's what his motivations are, but I think it's a real possibility that he could go to Texas next year.
Yeah. See, I'm trying to justify it in my head. I just keep going back to, he's got to recognize he has a limited window of opportunity for coaching. He can't have a situation where he goes for a few years and it just isn't quite the right fit, or it's going to take too long to rebuild. He's got to find the right fit now. Cause I think, even if he stays for 10 years, that's not a long time in college football. A lot can happen in that much time, and you have to get those recruits instantly to catch up, or it puts you at a pretty big disadvantage when you're trying to compete with Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama. It's hard. So I just can't figure out in my mind, like, if a guy who can live anywhere in the country he wants to because he has enough money to, and he has enough experience and success as a head coach, I don't think there are very many schools in this country who are going to be like, no, we're good. Maybe Clemson and Alabama, but probably Florida at this point because of the relationship with it, which it's been repaired, I would say, a lot, but still, I don't know if they would welcome with open arms. But there are very few schools in the country who'd be like, no, I think we're okay. If he was like, hey, I want to come coach you. So I think he kind of has his pick almost of where he wants to go at this point.
Yeah. I keep going back to if Mac Brown can do it at UNC. I mean, look what he's done at UNC. Then Urban Meyer can do it at Texas in a year or two. Mac Brown is a great coach, but he's not the coach Urban Meyer is. And so if he can do it, then anyone can do it. And I was looking at UNC. They're ranked 8th this week. They're going up against Virginia Tech. It's a home game against Virginia Tech. The spread is 5.5. UNC, Virginia Tech. Tim, have you taken a chance to look at this game? What are your thoughts?
I've only had a glimpse. I think Virginia Tech, we don't know a lot about them yet. They had a couple. I think they had one game that had to be postponed. So I'm not sure what Virginia Tech is right now. I watched a little bit of UNC, and they look good. Like, they're a decent team. Mac Brown has them definitely trending up over the last couple of years. So we'll see what happens with them moving forward.
I like UNC. I think that Mac Brown has that thing ticking. Virginia Tech, I don't think they're the real deal. And I don't know if they ever will be again. I think if they're ever in the top 25, they're overrated in my mind. So I think North Carolina, even though they have to, they're laying 5.5. I'm still going with UNC to cover that. So give me UNC over Virginia Tech.
Yeah, it sounds like we're on the same page there. I think North Carolina is good enough to beat Virginia Tech by a touchdown easy. I don't think it's going to be even that close. I think probably more like 10 or 14.
Yeah. And so I'm going to lay those points. Looking at number 4, Florida, and against number 21, Texas A&M. Tim, this is a big one for you. Texas A&M, they're 4.5. That's all they're given. So you're going to take those points. You're going to lay those points, Tim. Texas A&M. Florida's only supposed to win by 4.5.
I am absolutely going to pick Florida to win because I have to.
Yeah.
But I do think it's going to be a close game. I do think that Florida is going to win the game, but I think it's going to be a touchdown. I think Texas A&M is going to score. Florida is going to score. I'm a little concerned about the Florida's offensive line, like we talked about, slowing down Texas A&M. I think they're going to get some pressure to Trask, and Florida's going to make the adjustments, and they're going to win. But I think I'm going to be on the edge of my seat the whole game. I don't like it, but I love it.
Yeah. What time's that game on Saturday?
They play at noon. They have a noon kickoff on ESPN.
Kickoff?
Third straight noon on ESPN.
Yeah. What do you think about noon games?
I like it because at least I get to start my day and like watch it, and then it's like, okay, now what? Watch more football. Right. Okay, cool.
Right.
But then I can kind of focus. I get a lot more distracted with the other games. Like I can't get into the other games if I know Florida's playing at 3:30. But I like the 3:30 games a lot. So I'm okay with either one really. I don't like the 9 o'clock games.
No, I prefer 3:30 or later. I feel like the noon games. It's nice to start your day that way, but then like you said, you're like, now what? Like if it's a later game, I'm gonna throw a brisket on the smoker. Just like make a day of it. Like the anticipation. But Ohio State is stuck in this Fox contract, and so Ohio State always gets those big noon kickoffs. So I think every game this year is going to be at noon, and it drives me nuts.
Yeah, they'll be premier 12 kickoffs.
Yeah, it's brilliant on the side of Fox, but it drives me crazy. So our third pick of the week, 14 Tennessee and number 3 Georgia. Georgia looked like a legitimate contender. I don't want to say it. I don't want them to be. I don't know why I don't want them to be. It's going to be between Georgia, Florida, or Alabama in the SEC for the college football playoff third spot. So I don't know. Georgia recruits well. Tennessee is 14th. They have it an up. They're looking way better than they have in the previous seasons. We were making jokes about them last year. Now they're looking like a pretty legitimate team. But Georgia is 13-point favorites is what I have. 13-point favorites. What are you taking there, Tim? Or do you want me to go first this time?
You can go first.
Sure. I got Georgia. I think they're going to win big. I don't think Tennessee's the real deal.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Tennessee has the longest winning streak in the SEC right now as far as consecutive games. They won their last 6 games last year.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
But the reality is, who cares? Like they're not ready. They've gotten better. Granted, they've gotten better, and Florida gets to play them last, which usually they play them one of the first games of the season. So they kind of flipped the schedule this year. So they're playing like the very last game. I've seen a lot of trash talk from Tennessee fans. We're back. This is it. We're ready. I think you're going to hear a lot of crickets at the end of Saturday when Georgia wins by 17 points.
I think they win by 28. I think they just run over them. Yeah, I don't think Tennessee's back. Especially they might be back as far as Tennessee is concerned.
Right.
But they're not back at the level that Georgia is. They're not back at the level of Florida. They're not. They haven't eclipsed that next tier. They're still hovering around the Ole Miss tier. I think they haven't gone to the top tier.
I agree. I think they've had a fairly safe schedule, so I think that's helped them. I don't think they've been tested yet. But Georgia, they have the depth, they have the offensive and defensive line that Florida has to get to this coming weekend. So I think I just don't think Tennessee they're not ready. They have some playmakers, but they're not ready to be that team yet.
All right. And the game of the week, the big one. This is going to decide the fate of the ACC. Which of these teams is going to be in the college football playoffs? It's only week 3, but I feel like it's going to be decided on Saturday. And believe it or not, with all that hype, Clemson's still favored by 2 touchdowns. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think obviously to start off with, I lived in Clemson. I like Clemson. Mm-hmm. I won't cheer for them against Florida, of course, but I like Clemson a lot. I do not like Miami as a Florida fan. We're not friends. But De'Aaron King is legit. Like, he is a really good quarterback. This team has played very, very well. However, who have they played? What are they? What is this team? I know you can say that almost for most teams at this point, especially in the ACC. Like, who have they played? But I don't think beating Florida State proves anything for Miami. I mean,
Yeah.
they haven't done enough for me.
Right.
Clemson is once again one of the premier schools in the program, one of the premier teams in the program. Yet again, they have the best quarterback in the entire country. So they have the best quarterback in the entire country.
Second best. You'll see
You
by
should
the end of
stop.
this season. You'll see by
Stop.
the end of the season.
They
Justin
have the
Fields.
Trevor Lawrence will be the number one quarterback
Nope.
taken in the draft.
No.
Hands down, no question. So anyway, so I look at this game and I just don't see any way that Miami can keep up. However, I do think it'll be closer than 14. I'm picking a 10-point Clemson win, so I am taking Miami, hoping you'll take Clemson so we have at least one game that's different this week.
I have it. Clemson. Yeah. Clemson big by at least 17. Yeah. I think Clemson's in a look what we can do mode. I mean, it's just they're going to run over everybody all season long. They're playing for the playoff there. I mean, these are just scrimmages to them. I mean, they're just going to run over everybody in the ACC. Miami, they're ranked 7th because they play in the ACC, and they haven't had to play anybody. And like you said, they don't have what it takes. Clemson wins big. They do have the second best quarterback in the country. Justin Fields went to a vegan diet. I don't know if that's important, but he's on like the diet that Tom Brady does. He's on the I'm here for the long haul. He's at the point where the game is going to be moving much slower for him. He's making reads beyond first, second, third. He's going to anticipate by the defense where the play is going to go. He is, from what I've heard, he's just been sitting with coaches. You know, he's living by himself now, him and his dog, like to keep away from all the distractions. This dude is locked in, and you're going to see by the end of this season, Justin Fields getting his name called first from the podium at the NFL draft.
I'm trying to figure out if you're serious.
Take it to the bank. No, that's a take it to the bank moment. You just wait. You wait and see. Dude is just gonna be next level.
I'm so glad this is being recorded so I can play this back for you later.
Yeah, no, he's gonna be the real deal. As long as he avoids injury, as long as he avoids the virus, he's gonna be the first pick in the NFL draft.
You're gonna be so embarrassed when I play this back.
Just wait. No, just wait. He's next level. He's locked in. So I am gonna take Clemson. So we do have that one game to look forward to. One game. Difference where I can close the gap because you did take the 2-1 lead last week. Thankfully, Oklahoma is just as embarrassing as I thought they were going to be.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But I do want to say with the ACC, really this game, and then Clemson plays Notre Dame in a few weeks, and that's it. That's the conference. Yeah. I mean, that's really what's going to come down to in this conference is those three teams who beat two. Now, it'd be really interesting if Miami were to upset Clemson. And then Clemson plays Notre Dame, and if Clemson beats Notre Dame, what does that do to them? You know, it's just like this cycle of like Miami. If they win this game, I don't know who else is going to challenge them the rest of the season. Right. So Miami has a lot of motivation to come in and win this game,
but they're not going to.
I don't think so either.
They're not going to win. Clemson is just too good. So we have a really good Clemson team, a really good Ohio State team, and I am less confident about putting Florida in my top 4. So that's where I'm on the fence. Who from the SEC will emerge into the college football playoff? That's what I think the biggest question is for college football right now. Is it going to be Florida, Alabama, Georgia? Tim, who's in for you?
Well, I obviously put Clemson in still until they get beaten by someone. I keep Florida in there right now. Like, I know there are some questions, but every team has some questions, I would hope, except for maybe Clemson and Alabama at this point. But I don't know. Like, I do think that Florida's going to continue to get better and better and better. By the time they would face Alabama, they're going to be ready. So I'm keeping them in my top 4. I'm being consistent. I'm still going to put Ohio State in there, basically as a favor to you. Like, you bribed me for that. And then I'm going to leave Notre Dame in there right now because I do think their schedule is soft. So even if they lose to Clemson but win the rest of their games, they're going to be considered, sadly. But I don't think they're going to be in. But right now, I'm keeping them in my top 4 because I don't have anybody else. Like I don't want to. I can't put Penn State in my top 4. I know you did that last week, but I can't do that because they have to play Ohio State, and I just want to see what they are before I consider them to be a top 4 team.
Yeah. So last week I said that Florida, Ohio State, Clemson, put them wherever you want, interchange them, 1, 2, 3, doesn't matter. I think I can start separating this a little bit. Ohio State, Clemson, 1 and 2, And then that third spot and that fourth spot, those are the ones that are up in the air. I'm going to keep.
That's so hypocritical.
What do you mean?
You're saying Ohio State guaranteed locked them in. They haven't played a game yet.
We know what they are.
Okay.
We know what they are, Tim.
You haven't seen them play a snap.
I basically have, because they replaced their defensive backs, and that's about it. So I know what Ohio State is. Brought in Kerry Combs as the defensive coordinator. Not going to miss a beat with their defensive backs. So I know what Ohio State is. I know what Florida. I don't know. They have a lot of talent on offense, but if you don't have a good interior line, then you're not a good team. And so if you're right and they can develop that, then they are going to be there. But if they can't, then Alabama's going to embarrass them when they play them in the conference championship.
I understand all that. I'm just saying you're locking in a team who hasn't played. Like, we already know what they are.
I know what they are.
You don't.
There's no doubt about it. They're going to be the number one ranked team by the end of the season. They're going to blow over everybody.
I can't wait. I'm so glad we're recording this whole episode, because all these highlights are going to be on your highlight reel.
We do need to make a highlight reel. What are we doing here? So Ohio State, Clemson, 1 and 2. I'll keep Florida in this week, Tim. I'll keep them in as my number 3. But if Alabama shows up, then they're out.
Listen, take them out. I don't want your pity pick. Take them out.
No.
We don't want you on the bandwagon. Get out of here.
Trust me, no bandwagon. And then, as much as I want, I'm going to keep Penn State in there in my number 4 pick, even though I do think it's going to be a second SEC team. So there's a really good chance, I think, that it could be but we're going to take Florida if they just lose to Alabama? Are we going to take Alabama if they just lose to Florida in the conference championship? Like,
that's really hard to do. That's really hard to do.
Really eliminates them. So, yeah, I still like my Penn State pick, because they'll still have that extra game even if they don't make the conference championship. So I like my Penn State pick at number 4.
Yeah, I think the only way Alabama and Florida get in is if Alabama's ranked number 1 and Florida upsets them in the SEC championship and drops Alabama to 4. That's your only real possibility of that happening.
Yeah, and that's a possibility. There's no doubt about that. Both teams could be undefeated, but Florida looks a little more suspect throughout the season, so they can't put Florida, higher than 4 because of that. And then Florida beats them. Yeah, I could definitely see that playing out.
Also, I don't know if you heard the rumor, but Trask, legit Heisman candidate right now.
Yeah, no, I believe it. He's good. Once the Big Ten starts playing, he'll drop down on that a little bit. But, yeah, he deserves at this point in the season to be a Heisman Trophy candidate. Absolutely.
Well, both Kyles, actually. The rumor is both Kyles could be Heisman candidates by the end of the season.
Pitts?
Yeah.
Get out of here. They're not going to give it to a wide receiver.
Are you kidding me? He has 6 touchdowns in 2 games.
He's really good, but there's been a lot of really good wide receivers who don't get looked at.
I said candidate. All I said, top 10.
That's what I'm saying. Top 10. Yeah, for sure.
I'm not saying he'll be on stage. I'm saying top 10 candidate.
Yeah. Okay, I got you. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair at this point. They've had really good seasons so far. So final thoughts, Tim. What do you want to close out
on? Just Florida playing Texas A&M this week. It's going to be a nerve-wracking game for me. Like I said, I'm on the edge of my seat the whole game. Just got to hope for the best. This team's got to rally a little bit this week, get a little bit better practices, better scheme. Man, I wish it was Saturday right now.
No, I know. Well, 2 more weeks, Buckeye fans. That's all we have to wait. 2 more weeks, and we can watch college football with everybody else. We just have to power through 2 weeks of watching terrible football. And by terrible, I mean the SEC and the ACC. Just garbage football until October 24th, when the Big Ten can finally play and we can watch real football players go at it.
Sad. This is sad.
But that is the Tim and Shipe Show. Thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all so much for being a part of our show today. If you want to be more a part of the show, check out our Facebook page. That's where we're most active, is on our Facebook page. But go ahead and give us a follow, comment on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, because we're on all 3 platforms, and we'd love to hear from you. Send us your pictures, your comments, whatever you want to do. Comment on the show. We'd love to have you. Thank you so much to our sponsors. We are so blessed by you to be able to keep providing this show for the people who listen. So thank you all to everyone. And thank you, Tim. He's Tim Jones. I'm Aaron Shipe. This has been the Tim and Shipe Show, a college football podcast. Thanks so much for being part of it. We'll catch you next time.
And go Gators.